but I feel like especially like the generation that we came from, like what's theirs, like Generation X or something, or like kind of like 40s to like
my parents are for sure like baby boomers.
Yeah, it's boomer.
Okay.
Generation X is after us.
40s to after us, really?
Right?
Okay, so there's
Or is that Gen Z?
Gen Z is after us.
Okay.
Gen Z is like the ones that are like, eating like Tide Pods.
Dude,
and stuff
I don't
like
even know what I'm in.
No, you.
What am
you
I?
Are on
What's
the
your
cusp of,
year?
like, millennial.
I was born in 99.
Yeah, you're still millennial.
Yeah.
You're like at the very, the
Yeah.
youngest of all millennials.
Well,
the youngest.
What I like about Gen Z though is that they also just don't give a fuck because they grew up with the internet and they're just kind of like, well, why should I listen to you when I clearly have like my own life that I follow and listen to and like enjoy online. Because like back in the day, like you're just stuck with what you have. You have to like make do with like sticks and stones outside and fucking, now kids have like their cell phones and everything. And well, anyway, back to the whole like parents issue. I mean, not an issue, but I feel like a lot of it just comes from like shit was really weird. Like when our parents were growing up and like they kind of had to like fend for themselves and like, they saw a lot. Like
For sure.
They're I think maybe a bit more fucked up than millennials are. Millennials are like maybe a bit more mental than like the parents, but I think it's because our parents are like so also like they've seen a lot, they've been through a lot.
It's just like unprocessed trauma.
Yes.
Like they didn't handle
From
their
what?
trauma before they had kids. Just from their life. Like I mean, I'm sure when they were growing up it was like tough times and stuff, but like I think like if you're gonna have kids you need to handle your past and your issues first before you like project it on your children.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. That she just said it. That's it. That's next.
It's true.
That's it.
I know that with my parents. Just because they don't talk about anything, especially my father doesn't talk about anything.
Really?
At all.
Well, you should talk about that.
No, I don't know. I feel like I don't know anything about my parents.
Yeah.
Like, at all. I feel like I don't know anything
Agreed.
about my parents.
No way.
Like,
well, that's actually funny.
My parents love telling me what I did wrong all the
Yeah,
time.
there you go.
Every day of the week. But like I didn't know really much. I mean, my mom was a lot more social and open, but like I barely know my father. Like we've had more conversations since I've moved here than probably like 10 or 11, like 10 to 15 years of my like.
Way.
Yeah, it's not like a bad relationship at all. I'm not saying that at all. No abusiveness here.
No.
Yeah.
It's just like that's just who he is.
sometimes it's just awkward
Yeah.
with your parents.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's true.
I've never experienced. I can tell my mom anything, and she would like now. I mean, we never got along, but I mean now, like for past 2.5 years, we made up and we worked through it. But I can tell her everything. I mean, there's like maybe certain things I don't want her to know, but like we can talk about anything, and like I have friends that come over, maybe they have similar situations where their parents don't like talk to them and they're like weirded out by like my relationship with my mom because I just tell her like,
Yeah, you guys are best friends.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. You guys are best friends. I've always like wondered what that would be like. Because like there's definitely a lot I don't want my parents to know.
Yeah. And I mean, what would happen if you just started like opening up to your dad?
I like try to. And he like kind of strikes conversation. We'll have like a 15-minute conversation. That's about it.
That's it?
Yeah.
No. Okay,
Well, there's a
15
lot,
minutes is a long time.
but
I
it's
could
more
not
like
even talk to my dad for that long.
Are you kidding
I couldn't.
me?
Yeah.
There's no way. We would run out of things to talk about.
exactly.
Like there's no way.
We're not.
It's like I try to start a conversation and it's so weird. Like it's so
But
weird.
that's like where
Like-
you that's your person, like that's
I
your
mean,
dad.
For me,
you're his
it's like
daughter,
if
you
I have
know?
an issue with like my car or finances or anything like that, like my dad knows.
Yeah, I know
I'll
my
ask
dad's
him,
always gonna be there.
Exactly.
But, like,
But for me, at least, I'm like, what's the term? The black sheep, I think is the term. Like, I was just like the risk. I was the troublemaker of the family. Like, I am doing something different than all they know. Like, my parents were both state job people. The rest of my siblings are all like very like structured in that. I'm over here like I'm moving across the country. Fuck it. Like, so like it's always been like I'm pretty sure I can say I've had experiences that most of my family will never ever have like already. So it's hard to yeah. I mean, being on like flying like every single like day or week to go to music festivals and like photographing celebrities and models and like creating music and DJing and all that stuff. Like I can't talk about that because they're like, so what do you do for money? I'm just like, that is my money.
Yeah, exactly. And like,
I can make so
like
much money off it. Like it's they don't grasp like this industry at all, like what I do. And like I know that for a fact because I explained it to my close friends earlier. It was like a couple months before I moved to LA, so like about 10 months ago, where he came into my room and he gave me like a business card of, because English is his second language. So he has like this really cool.
What's his first language?
Spanish. He's from Colombia.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're half Colombian.
Yep.
Sick.
No.
That's cool.
And
that is cool.
gave me a card of this his English tutor, and he was like, she told me that she's a photographer from LA, and I was just like, oh, cool, like, you should reach out. I was like, all right, cool. And then I called her and was like, hey, my father told me to call you because I'm moving to LA soon, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, so, like, what you should start doing is, like, building portfolio and stuff like that, like, very beginner, like, conversation. I was just like, he didn't tell you about anything I did he? And she was just like, no, just said you were into photography. And I was just like, here's my portfolio.
Yeah,
and
I've done a lot.
Yeah. And the whole conversation changed. And like, for better or worse, that's when I figured out that like my parents straight up don't know what I do.
Holy shit.
I have no idea what I do. And like, that was 10 months ago. And I'm 24 now.
I feel like you guys have like very similar stories because I am like shocked by like the fact that you like can't talk like or like what you said like it's awkward when you talk to your dad. Like I can't even like I don't understand.
And like don't get me wrong, like my mom and I used to be like super close, but like I've never had that like close connection with my dad. But I think like it just comes down to like at the end of the day, like if my parents and I were the same age, like if they were my age right now, we wouldn't be friends.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like if my parents were my age, like I don't think that we would be friends.
Why is that? Because you are a product of both of them. So it's kind of weird where it's like...
To a point. And then as you get older, you become a product of your environment. Because, like, I don't hang out with my parents at all. And, like, what's the quote? You're like, in a conglomerate of the 5 closest people around you. I barely hang out with my parents.
I believe truly that your parents should be, like, on your list of, like, people I would go to, like, first thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Are you religious?
I'm Christian. I just recently, like maybe 2.5 years ago, just kind of like decided I was gonna, put that label on it.
Nice.
And just kind of like go for it. Cause, for the long time I was just not, that's funny you asked that because I grew up in like I will say religious. Cause, I think there's a difference between like saying like, oh, I'm religious or, oh, like, like
I'm not saying you're like
God
some crazy like nun or anything like that, but people with like more religious values like tend to put family more first. And like I like was never really that religious, so I was just like, I would legit act like I was falling asleep like every Sunday, so I wouldn't go to church.
Oh, dude, church fucking sucks. Yeah. Shout out to all the churches that don't suck.
For real,
far and few.
Need more singing.
Yeah. I grew up in a very religious household, like the whole like don't have sex and like don't do drugs, don't drink alcohol, you're a sinner, like you need to stay pure and all this shit, and like that's fine and all, but what did that cause me to do? Like I wanted to go out and like go off exactly like it backfired. And so in my experience I'm like you can't force beliefs onto people, and like it did not work for me. So I just kind of had to like go about my life and be like what works for me, and just kind of like prayer, spirituality, goodness, like good heart, good soul, like lifting others up in like a way where it's like life doesn't have to be shitty. I'm not going to be like an asshole because I can. I'm always that type of person where like, fuck, like I essentially need to hold myself to a standard where I'm like, I'm going to be like a good one, like I want to walk into someone's house and just be like, it's good, like, because I've dealt with so much shit. I'm just like, I don't fuck with it anymore. Like I immediately just cut it out, so that's like why in my heart, like that's where it is with me. But I don't think anyone else needs to be, you can do whatever the fuck you want. If you have a good heart, like, that's all it is.